A lot of consumer brands are already investing in GEO, or Generative Engine Optimization, to make sure that their products are surfacing when someone asks an LLM for recommendations. Box checked, moving on. But while these GEO approaches might get you found in AI conversations, it doesn't necessarily mean that your product is ready for the next era of commerce, which is agents who shop and transact for buyers. When AI agents actually start transacting, completing purchases on behalf of consumers, they're going to need something different. They will need canonical product data, structured attributes, rich context. And that's what Scott Wingo from Retailgentic and RefiBuy calls Agentic Commerce Optimization. And the checklist looks a little bit different to what we're seeing in terms of best practices for GEO. But the bigger problem for CPG brands who primarily sell through other retailers and don't do a whole lot of volume through their own D2C site, most of that checklist isn't yours to control. The fate of your brand when it comes to agentic commerce is really in the hands of your retailer partners. So I'm going to talk through today the difference between GEO and agentic commerce optimization, and from a consumer brand perspective, what is in your control versus what is in retailers' control and what you should be asking them about. If you're a retailer listening to this, I highly recommend that you check out the original Agentic Commerce Optimization framework at Retailgentic. I'll link up to it in the show notes. That's going to be more relevant for you. You are the enabler or blocker for your brand suppliers on everything that I'm about to describe. Let's jump in. So first, the difference between GEO and ACO. So GEO is getting you discovered in LLMs today. When someone asks Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT for dog food recommendations, your brand might show up because of brand recognition, lots of SEO work that you've done in the past, maybe even some recent GEO work that you've done in the recent past. And so that's great visibility. ACO gets you chosen and available for purchase. It ensures that when an AI agent is ready to transact, it has everything it needs to show your product as a purchasable option within the LLM or within the browser, whatever you're using. It's the difference between Purina cat food appearing in search results when I'm asking about what type of cat food I should buy for my 9-year-old cat, and the agent actually recommending a specific Purina cat food SKU, knowing that it's in stock at the nearest retailer that I buy from, understands that it's grain-free, and then is able to actually complete the purchase. So if you're a CPG brand that sells primarily through retail partners rather than your own website, you don't get to control some very important foundational requirements here, like crawlability on your website. And this is a really big one for retailers because just by default, a lot of these retailer websites have turned off the ability for agents to crawl their site by default. And it's just, it's a security thing from the past. They're not allowing agents to crawl their website. There's nothing you can really do about that as a brand, right? Besides being educated and maybe asking your retailers about it and impressing on them, maybe they should be thinking about it. Miracle Ads is the ad tech solution trusted by Rakuten and over 50 global enterprise retailers. That's because Miracle Ads was built with both 3P marketplace sellers and 1P suppliers in mind. Both advertiser audiences demand a seamless advertising journey from onboarding to reporting. You can offer everything from sponsored products to video ads all in one solution. Learn more at miracle.com. That's MIRAKL.com. So there's a few more other steps in this 9-step framework that you don't have direct control over. And those include the infrastructure. So is the site accessible to agents? Number 2 is crawlability. Is the catalog accessible to engines and agents? You don't get to decide either of those two things, but steps number 3 through 7, you do get to partner with your retail partners on. So those are basic product content. This is the usual stuff: titles, images, pricing, description. Variations is step number 4. Step number 5 is basic e-commerce attributes. So this is category, features, specifications. These are all things that you have likely submitted to a marketplace in the past, but the retailer themselves controls the final implementation of that. How does it look on site once they have it in their system? Step number 6 is expanded attributes. And this is where we're starting to get into things that are a little more specific to AI. So more context that an agent needs about user reviews. What have other customers said about this product in the past? Cross-sell. What products do customers often buy this with? Or after researching this category, which products do they often buy? Usage context. How is this used? Who uses it? And when? So brands can potentially provide some of this contextual information to retailers, but retailers are going to decide how that is displayed and provided to an agent. Step number 7, and this is the final piece of information that a brand could conceivably work with their retailer partners on, is extra product content, which includes reviews, Q&As, user-generated content, and multilingual content as well. So brands can pass this content to the retailer. The retailer, again, decides how that is aggregated and displayed to an agent. So in all of these cases, the brands provide the inputs, but the retailers control the outputs. There are 2 other steps in the ACO framework where brands can and should really be tracking how this works, and it's essentially the modern version of digital shelf tracking and optimization. So step number 8 is product card monitoring. So a product card is how your product shows up in an LLM or how it shows up in a browser as a search result, essentially. Like how today you would search on Amazon for a certain product and you'd get the list of product results. A product card is sort of the AI version of that. It shows up with an image, a title, pricing, etc., which retailer it's available from. So retailers are obviously going to want to have product cards in those search results, but brands will also want to be tracking if and where they're showing up for certain queries. So shelf analytics vendors should be starting to evolve their offerings for a agentic commerce scenario. So that is something as a brand you'll want to be on the lookout for. Is your current digital shelf vendor moving in that direction? Are they starting to track results in LLMs? So what this means for brands is you can create perfect agent-ready product data, but if your retail partner doesn't implement it correctly or at all, it's not going to matter. So this is where brands can start to have conversations with their retailer partners about what is their plan for this and what can you as a brand be providing to your retailer partners to help them move along this journey. To be clear, this is going to be a huge lift for retailers. There's a lot more infrastructure required for this, but as your distribution partner, it's certainly within reason to want to understand where they're at in the journey and how they're planning to optimize for this scenario. Some of these concepts are a little harder to talk through in an audio format. If you want to see that full list of 9 steps, I suggest check out the blog post that accompanies this episode for a table. And If you want to dive a little bit deeper, certainly recommend checking out the Retailgentic blog, which talks through all of this, certainly from the perspective of a retailer or a brand that has a really strong D2C site. But it really is in your interest to understand what your retail partners should be building and how the partnership needs to evolve.